Nobody wants President Newsom either. Nobody believes in that guy. That guy's a f***ing con man. Everything he did in California, from trying to mandate vaccines for kids, to being caught public without a mask and lying about the fact that he was outdoors.
Yeah.
Nobody believes in that guy. He's just a politician.
The fear, the horror, the hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy.
Gavin Newsom has every reason to be nervous right now because Bill Maher, someone he has counted on for years, accidentally exposed the side of him he's worked hard to hide. Maher wasn't trying to blow him up, but that's exactly what happened, and now millions are looking at Newsom as a polished politician with more style than substance. And he isn't just losing ground with voters. Big names in entertainment have started weighing in, and one of the loudest critics is Joe Rogan. Rogan didn't hold back when he called out Newsom for turning California into a chaotic, crumbling state. His breakdown of Newsom's leadership hit hard, and we'll get to all of that. But before we jump in, hit subscribe and let's get into the details. You've probably seen the clip by now.
On KBLA yesterday, with my friend Tavis Smiley. I'm an investor and a supporter of that station. And he said, who do you want for running president? I mentioned, I think you'd be good at the job. Not this year, we know. No, I know. But he said, I don't think he could win. I don't think he could win. He's too progressive coming from this state and what he's done in this state to win in any southern state, any red state. I disagreed, but this is a progressive African-American owned station, and I'm sure they like you, but he doesn't think you can win. What do you say to that if you could win look at the swing state. There's only 8.
This is the clip that sent Gavin Newsom into damage control mode. It shook the image he spent years building. Yes, people like Bill Maher still entertain the idea that he could run for president one day, but millions don't buy it. They see him as too ideological and too disconnected from the concerns of everyday Americans. This is a governor who pushed for gender-neutral toy aisles and supported measures that would let teachers hide information from parents if a child wanted to identify differently. That isn't leadership. It's extreme policymaking. And when Maher unintentionally pulled the curtain back, people finally saw it clearly. Rogan followed up with his own criticism, calling out Newsom's handling of California from the day he stepped into office. He even mocked the idea that Newsom could lead the country.
Nobody wants President Newsom either. Nobody believes in that guy. That guy's a f***ing con man. Everything he did in California, from trying to mandate vaccines for kids, to being caught public without a mask and lying about the fact that he was outdoors.
Yeah.
Nobody believes in that guy. He's just a politician. Just a stone-cold, narrative-driven politician. Nobody thinks he's a real human. Whether you like Trump or not, whether you think he's corrupt or not, that's a human being. You know what that guy is. Same thing with RFK Jr. Whether you believe that he's correct about vaccines or whether you believe his policies would be effective, and that's a human being. With Newsom, you've got like this construct, this cardboard cutout of a person. I don't think people want that, but they might want it more than they want president.
By the time Rogan posted that video, Newsom was already unraveling. The pressure was getting to him, and it showed in every press appearance. The calm, polished politician vanished. What people saw instead was a defensive, shaky governor who couldn't control the narrative anymore. Maher's critique rattled his supporters, but Rogan's comments hit even harder. When two major voices, both watched by millions, start tearing into you, it's no longer a media issue. It becomes a full-blown political crisis. Newsom knew he had to react quickly. He tried to regain control and look like a leader, especially with tensions exploding across Los Angeles. That's when he suddenly decided to speak up about the LA riots, something he had been criticized for ignoring. But by then the damage was already done. His response looked desperate and forced, and people called it out immediately.
Your decency, Mr. President, stop. Rescind this order. It's illegal and unconstitutional. And I said it, I'll say it again, it's immoral. You're creating the conditions that you claim you're solving, and you're not. And you're putting real people's lives at risk. This is a serious moment, and it requires serious leadership. And it's time for you to be a commander-in-chief of the United States of America. And I will have your back if you want to work in a relationship of trust and truth in the spirit of our founding fathers. But you come after poor kids, you come after families, we will do everything in our power to stand up and stand in your way.
Instead of addressing the growing tension after the IC protest in California, Newsom jumped into attack mode and aimed his anger at Donald Trump. He didn't calm the moment or offer any real solutions. He chose to stir emotions and blame Trump for everything. He described the IC arrests as brutal acts tearing apart innocent families, shifting attention away from the facts and toward outrage. It was the usual strategy: frame enforcement as cruelty, turn agents into villains, and act as though he alone is fighting for the helpless. What was actually a targeted operation against people involved in major criminal activity suddenly became a humanitarian tragedy in his version of events. None of it was grounded in reality, but it made for a dramatic headline. And when he didn't get the response he wanted, Newsom challenged Tom Homan to arrest him.
Hands off these poor people. They're just trying to live their lives, man. Trying to live their lives, paying their taxes. Been here 10 years. The fear, the horror. The hell is this guy? Come after me, arrest me. Let's just get it over with. Tough guy. You know, I don't give a damn. But I care about my community. I care about this community. The hell are they doing? These guys need to grow up. They need to stop. And we need to push back. And I'm sorry to be so clear, but that kind of bloviating is exhausting. So Tom, arrest me. Let's go.
That challenge made him look even more rattled. Newsom was losing control of the narrative and he knew it. So he went all in on emotion, saying whatever he thought would grab public sympathy. He tried to paint himself as the brave defender standing up to federal agents, hoping to spark support and shift attention from his own failures. But underneath all the posturing was a simple truth. He wasn't risking anything. He wasn't in violation of immigration law and he knew it. That's why he could throw out a dramatic dare to Homan without blinking. It was a staged moment designed to impress cameras, not a genuine act of courage. The whole thing played out like a scripted performance. And then Tom Homan responded.
Reporter asked me, well, could Governor Newsom or Mayor Bass be arrested? I said, well, no one's above the law. If they cross the line and commit a crime, absolutely they can. So there was no discussion about arresting Newsom. And so, you know, what he's done, he's failed that state. He waited 2 days of that city burning and people getting hurt, officers being assaulted before he made any declaration of an unlawful assembly. He's late to the game. President Trump isn't late to the game.
Homan didn't sugarcoat anything. He called out Newsom's stunt in plain terms. If Newsom wanted to be arrested, Homan said he should actually break the law. Otherwise, stop pretending. He was sharp, direct, and honest. Homan pointed out that while chaos was unfolding in the streets and communities were being torn apart, Newsom did nothing. For 2 full days he stayed silent while people begged for leadership. And when Trump stepped in with the National Guard to stop the violence, Newsom complained that it was done without his approval. Homan made it clear. Newsom wasn't ignored. He simply failed to act. And that wasn't the end of it.
Keep hearing this term ICE raids, ICE raids. What happened with how this riot started is that ICE was serving a series of criminal warrants at a business being investigated for money laundering, customs fraud, and serious violations on sending money to criminal cartels that in Colombia and Mexico that fund criminal cartel activities in the United States. It's a part of an overall conspiracy that ICE is investigating. So we were arresting bad people. We were enforcing laws and following up on a serious criminal investigation on cartel financing. So that's exactly what ICE did. And ICE took a lot of bad people off the street that day. We arrested a sexual predator, arrested gang members, arrested somebody that had an armed robbery.
So let's clear up what IC was actually doing. These weren't random arrests of families walking through neighborhoods. Agents were targeting a major money laundering operation tied to violent cartels in Mexico and Colombia. These were dangerous criminals funneling cash into deadly networks. The operation protected public safety, but the media twisted the story into something completely different. They pushed the idea that ICE was ripping families apart and hunting down innocent immigrants. And at the center of that narrative was Gavin Newsom. He ignored the facts and painted agents as villains, all to score political points. Instead of informing the public, he stirred fear and anger. Homan's response was a sharp reminder of how far from the truth Newsom had strayed. And that set off another wave of panic from the governor.
Dictating what universities themselves can teach. He's targeting law firms and the judicial branch that are the foundations of an orderly and civil society. He's calling for a sitting governor to be arrested for no other reason than to, in his own words, for getting elected. And we all know this Saturday, he's ordering our American heroes, the United States military, and forcing them to put on a vulgar display to celebrate his birthday. just as other failed dictators have done in the past. Look, this isn't just about protests here in Los Angeles. When Donald Trump sought blanket authority to commandeer the National Guard, he made that order apply to every state in this nation. This is about all of us.
Still trying to win back sympathy, Newsom stepped in front of cameras with trembling voice and carefully timed emotion. Anyone watching could tell he was trying to force a terror too. It was performance, not passion. Then he called on other governors to join him in resisting Trump, turning a law enforcement operation into a political rallying point. It was another example of emotional manipulation without any real plan behind it. Instead of dealing with crime, addressing the riots, or offering real solutions, he leaned on speeches, theatrics, and attempts to shame critics. It was the same predictable play. Optics over action, feelings over facts, and leadership nowhere to be found.
I know many of you are feeling deep anxiety, stress, and fear, but I want you to know that you are the antidote to that fear and that anxiety. What Donald Trump wants most is your fealty, your silence to be complicit in this moment. Do not give in to it.
In the end, the entire act fell apart. Newsom's attempt to frame himself as a moral protector collapsed under the weight of the facts. Bill Maher exposed his flaws without even trying. Joe Rogan called out his failures. Tom Homan demolished the credibility of his political stunts. Newsom's strategy of stirring outrage, bending the truth, and appealing to emotion finally caught up with him. Californians deserve a governor who prioritizes safety and solutions, not someone who hides behind dramatic speeches and misleading narratives. The mask slipped and everyone watching saw what was underneath. And that wraps up today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.